Hello, welcome to Navigating to Success. I'm Focal Point Business and Executive Coach Jeff Carlton. I'm extremely excited to have a fellow Montanan, Keith Lauver, founder and CEO of Atomic Elevator, and also founder and CEO of Space Monkey Partners, which has been around for a while, and a whole bunch of other companies that he took to success and sold. So, Keith, welcome. This is going to be fun.
Thanks, Jeff. Excited to be here.
Yeah. Which do you want to talk about primarily? Because Space Monkey and Atomic Elevator both have differences, but they're somewhat similar in function.
Well, they connected. So maybe I'll just briefly tell you what that story was, and then you can choose. How about that, Jeff?
Yeah. Tell your
So
story.
I was a founder of a few different businesses, ranging from computers to cows to a company called Cook Simple. And yes, the letter C is about all they had in common. 10 years ago, decided to buy a marketing agency because frankly, I was frustrated with most of the marketers I'd ever hired. Spent some time studying the field, figured a few things out, built a little practice, and in that practice, figured out that one of the biggest problems in the world of marketing is the lack of precision that exists. And so started the most recent company, Atomic Elevator, to help businesses tell their stories in a more precise way. So Atomic Elevator is a software company that's providing software to help businesses do that, and it's based on AI. And Space Monkey Partners is still an agency providing marketing services to clients who need that.
So is Atomic Elevator about content generation primarily?
No, and that's actually where most AI goes. So it's very logical that you would assume so, Jeff. Most AI tools that are out there, and when you hear AI and marketing, you think, hey, let's automate the process of writing more things. So what we've believed and come to the conclusion of is most of those tools just create more junk. And so what we've said is let's think about how to do better, not more. So we have a tool that lets you align a strategy, be much more precise about planning a campaign or thinking about a roadmap or writing a presentation or a follow-up note. The kinds of things that we're doing with it or that now our
Right.
marketers are doing with it are just mind-blowing.
Cool. And then Space Monkey is kind of the delivery platform and mechanization, correct?
If somebody actually is a business that needs marketing services, they'll talk to Space Monkey. If they're a business that doesn't want marketing services, they want something for their marketing team to use. They have a marketing team. Or if somebody is a marketer and is looking for a tool to do better work, Atomic Elevator is the right fit there.
Right. And I appreciate what you said about AI, about crafting junk, is that people are using it to write their copy now.
Yeah.
Their content's being generated by AI, and it comes across as disingenuous sometimes because you lose that human touch. Sometimes you just got to call your baby ugly, right? Um, and put it out there because then people know that you're real and that your company is real.
Yeah, I think it's right to say we can't lose the human element. That's number one. This is all of us in business are in the business of essentially trust and relationship. And so at the end of the day, let's make sure that anything we do supports that, doesn't try to replace it.
That is so amazing that you just said that because not 20 minutes before you came on here, I had just made a post on LinkedIn, a comment that relationships and trust were the most one of the most important elements. Those exact words.
Oh my
So
gosh.
hearing that
I
echoed,
promise
I'm
I
like,
haven't
okay,
been reading, I didn't use AI to do research, and I've not been reading your profile on LinkedIn. So
well, I'm feeling pretty validated right now. So
good.
guess you're right on it. So, how big are these two companies? How many employees? What do you look like?
Yeah, Space Monkey's actually really small. We've only got five. And on the Atomic Elevators side, we're at about 10 right now. So these are still very small businesses. But Atomic Elevator is currently serving hundreds of people with a software that we just introduced this summer. And so we're
Wow.
certainly proud of the fact that people have said there's a better way to do marketing, and we'd like to do that. And we can do that today with 10 people because A, they're awesome, and B, there's a lot of scale to software. So.
So, really briefly, was this all homegrown in Billings, or is this all over the place?
Yeah, so I actually get the privilege of living just even a little bit further south in that little mountain village of Red Lodge, not far from
Yeah.
Billings. And so it's super fun to be down there. And that's where I get to call home. That's where a couple of the space monkeys also call home from a marketing service standpoint. But the broader team is actually dispersed, even one in South America. And we've got everybody else somewhere in North America, from Texas up to Minnesota, over to Chicago, and now in California. So,
Okay. So you answered my next question. There's no storefront or anything. This is all a virtual operation, and sounds like you've got it figured out how to run it quite efficiently.
I am proud of the fact that we know how to work remotely, and I think a lot of us figured things out, let's say 5 years ago, right? When a few things shifted for many of us.
Yeah. And Space Monkey cranked up in 2016 pre-COVID. Were you
We did.
still that way, working remote and
Yeah,
oh,
in fact, the idea of working remotely and working with what I'll call fractional leaders is something that I started way back when I was getting a food company launched. I knew I wanted experts in various disciplines, but I couldn't afford all the experts I wanted at their full-time um, kind of
sure.
salaries. And frankly, I didn't need them on a full-time basis. And so I was able to kind of be one of the early adopters of what's now called the fractional industry. So I used people like that, and we figured some things out. I became one of those people as part of Space Monkey, and now I'm back in the business of supporting them. So I went from being a user to one of them to now being a software provider to them.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing more of that. And I think there's goodness because there's people that don't want a 40-hour a week board member or CFO, something like that. And there's a lot of people that have the qualifications that are really super high quality. They don't want to work 40 hours a week. They did that for the first 20 or 30 years of their life, and they're ready for, something that's a little slower pace. So it's an interesting evolving landscape, and it certainly has utility um, in there. So we talked about. So are you using the AI from an innovation perspective? Um, are you using the AI to judge what is going to resonate with potential customers and clients? You mentioned, the follow-up notes, thank you notes, things like that. Is AI like when is going to be a good time to land this follow-up?
Yeah, so the beauty of AI is, as a general tool, it can be used and used well in so many different roles. The challenge with AI is most people are misunderstanding it, and it's not their fault. But when we look at something like ChatGPT and bring it into like where I help out in our local high school in the class, the first thing the kids think is, this can do my homework. The same is true of a lot of adults. This can do my work today. We think that's a mistake. And so the way we teach and what we believe philosophically is there's at least three roles for AI to play. One of them is a coach to us. We all have kind of our own limitations based on our experience, our expertise, our own passions. We also have biases, like what did we do recently or what are we preferring right now? And so the beauty of AI as a coach is it can kind of get us outside of ourselves and challenge some of the ways that we think. The second way we look at it is a co-creator, not a creator, but a co-creator. So we can use AI to create an outline or to think about a plan. We can use AI to take a first draft at something that we're then going to put a spin on and then ask AI to take another spin on it. So
Right.
co-creator would be the second. And then the final one is critic. I think AI can play a really great role in reviewing what we do, reviewing plans, and then saying, look at this from this perspective or look at this from that perspective. And so
Yeah.
those are some of the general ways that AI can, I think, make a big difference in our quality of work, not just our quantity. And so many people, again, are looking at that quantity thing. We think it's about quality.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I use Perplexity and some other engines to generate outlines, but I write all my own copy. Um, but it's a really interesting concept about, okay, now critique it, asking AI to critique it. Because you'll spend a couple hours or however long working on something, and it's impossible to call your own baby ugly, right?
I
So,
think that's such a great insight, Jeff. We have found an unexpected benefit of AI in especially a field dominated by creatives is oftentimes there's not a safe place to get feedback, right? And so therefore
sure.
we don't often show people all the crazy ideas that we have. And what happens, ironically, is that limits our creativity. AI can actually expand that by saying, you know, give me feedback on these five crazy ideas. Now, if we just look at a general tool to do that, you have to take it with a grain of salt, right? AI is, we like to think about it, an averaging machine. So it's the average of everyone's opinion. So if you want the average of everyone's opinion about something, it's a great place to go. And at least it gets you out of yourself. And so can absolutely make a difference in creative brainstorming and giving you a safe place to critique.
Yeah, that's man, that's a thread that I could pull on for about a half an hour, but we won't. But I'm definitely going to adopt that idea. I hadn't ever thought about feeding it back in and saying, okay, now critique this. Um, and how is this? So let me. I am going to take it and pull it a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, how much do you then focus on how a message is going to resonate with a certain demographic,
Oh,
age, race, gender, that
yeah.
kind of thing.
I think it's really critical. And again, this is one of the things that we've found can be done with AI and the right use of it. As people, at least I'll talk about my own limitations. I don't want to assume about others, but man, I have a hard enough time keeping you straight right now, Jeff, right? Like, here's you, here's the listeners, here's what we're talking about. Um, if I want to think about five different people that I could be talking to about a particular product, for an example, that's just too much in our heads. And so we think one of the really powerful ways to use AI is to develop, we're calling it high definition messages. And I'm going to just take a quick step back. I can remember when I grew up in Billings in my parents' basement, the UHF, VHF rabbit ears, right?
Tinfoil. You
That's
had to have
right.
tinfoil.
Tinfoil probably was on it. I could tell you that our first remote control was a wired remote control that just had like a little dial that you would turn, right? But let's be honest, the picture felt amazing when we could watch a TV that was probably 15 inches of screen. But imagine that version of ourselves going into Best Buy and looking at that 8K UHD television today, right? The level of quality and clarity is just so much different than my parents' basement. We think that's kind of what AI is beginning to let us do. We can create a much clearer picture of who that customer is that we're talking to. And we can create five different pictures or 10 different pictures. Marketers call them personas, but we can create those and then be really precise in how we talk about our products to each of those because we have that clarity.
So are you creating um, a separate GPT for each of those
It's sort of the way to
something like
think
that?
about it. What we've built is a proprietary system. So, in the world of AI, this would be known as a RAG or a retrieval augmented generating system. And so, not to nerd out on that, but it's essentially our own instructions and our own application and our own training. It's using underneath it OpenAI, just like ChatGPT use OpenAI. But what we do is create these templates. So we've given it instructions to say, gosh, if Jeff wants to profile a customer, he really should think about, what does that customer believe? What does that customer care about? How does that customer like to receive information? What is it that we can say that's going to trigger them to actually pay attention or engage or consider or ultimately buy, right? Those are some of the things that marketers think about. So we have a very long framework. And so as you start to use our tool, we call her Ella, by Atomic Elevator. When Ella is used, she creates this really detailed profile. And so that's all inside the system. You don't have to create a separate GPT for everything. It's all just in Ella. And then if you say something like, I want to talk to this kind of customer about this problem, Ella just pulls out that information, reads through it, and then says, oh, well, Jeff needs to hear about this in this way at this time, right? Delivering the right message in the right way at the right time to the right person is what AI does beautifully.
Wow, that's it's great because it kind of takes the I don't want to say it takes the ideal equation um, out of the strategy for a company, but it opens the door and broadens the aperture of of who who a client could be, as opposed to a preconceived notion about, oh, this is my ideal client. I'm not going to talk to anybody else. It drives me crazy when people do that. I'm like, well, why would you exclude good business? Um, maybe people want to buy your widget. That's
Well, here's my observation related to that. So, just like I said, general AI is an averaging beast. I think most of us as humans are often averaging beasts. And marketing as a discipline had to really always think about averages because it was too hard to think about anything but, right? We couldn't think about 10 different customers. We were lucky to think about one. And so this notion that we can only have one customer type was predicated on an assumption that that's because we could only focus or we only had the budget to figure out the materials to say, a brochure for that customer type or a presentation for that customer type, right? It was all driven out of a constraint. And if we blow that constraint up, the world changes, right? And so what we've done is challenge that assumption. Why can't we have not only 10 different profiles of customers, but our tool can look at somebody's disc personality type as an example for those who may know about that and know that, oh, this is the way you like to receive information. Not only do I know what you care about, but now I can present this back to you in a way that's going to fit your personality and how you choose to be. So we can really get down to that level of mass customization. We like to think about it as mass customization for marketing, just like mass customization for manufacturing was a trend over the past couple of decades. We can deliver and manufacture an on-the-fly message for a customer of one. That's effective.
yeah, no, that's fantastic. And the first engagement I do with any client is a disc assessment.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
so yeah, that is right in the wheelhouse. It's like the number one thing because everybody receives information differently, and so if you're doing the same message, you're missing 75% of your market because those four personality profiles are incredibly important. And once you understand DISC, all you got to do is watch commercials on TV, and they're talking to all four of those personalities. I love it.
Yeah, that's such a
But
good
now I
insight.
can't watch TV the same way because I'm always looking for which which line is talking to which profile. But we're about getting close to the end here, so I'll ask you the punchline question of what do you look like? What's your strategic plan? Where are you going to be in 2 years?
Gosh, well, we hope we're serving tens of thousands of businesses with Ella. Today, that number is thousands by the hundreds of marketers that are using our platform. So we'd really like to be providing tools for companies to do just what we've been talking about here, which is precise messaging so that they can grow. Our vision has always been, entrepreneurs that have amazing ideas need the best possibility of success. Business owners that have fantastic products or services that they're delivering out there. We want to tell those stories. That's where my heart started. That's what I was as an entrepreneur. And we just want to support more and more businesses out there. And so we're hoping that we can do that for tens of thousands.
Love it. Similar missions. Your scale's a little bigger than my one-to-one, but I like where you're going with it. So as part of that, you're on a growth trajectory, is what I heard. Um, are you hiring? And if so, what skill sets?
Yeah, well, thank you for that invitation. We're always open to talking to people that have skills in a couple of key areas. One of them is selling. We have many opportunities, and AI will never replace, again, like we talked about, trust and relationship. And so, therefore, we want people that value that, can build that, and can help us tell our story. So, on the sales front, we're looking for folks, and we're also looking for people that can help us tell our story better. So we're always looking for more people. There's many more things that can be done in the world of marketing. So marketing professionals and sales professionals we want to talk to. We're covered in many of the other areas right now. So
Okay, fantastic. How do people find you?
www.atomicelevator.com.
There you go. I figured it was something just that easy. All right. Well, Keith, man, thanks so much. This is really exciting stuff, and it's one of the first non-traditional ways of thinking about this AI boom that we've had in the last 12 months. So I really appreciate where you guys are taking it and using your powers for good instead of evil. I like it.
Let's go save the world. We can all do better.
Right on. All right, for everybody watching this episode, hope you learned something. Check out Keith, Atomic Elevator, and Space Monkey. There might be something that can help you out. And Keith, thank you very much for joining me.
Gosh, what a privilege. Thanks, everybody.
All right, see you guys next time.